Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the SFL podcast for, the first week after the championship season game. And, of course, I'm joined alongside by the, as per usual, Ramos, Lynn, and Mighty RX. And, of course, we're also joined here tonight by Commissioner Cameron Irvine of the SFL. That is absolutely awesome. So, of course, over the past week, we had a nice little championship game on our hands here, folks. And of course, that was between the Alaska Storm and Tallahassee Pride, where the Alaska Storm trounced the Tallahassee Pride 34-23, handing Tallahassee their first loss of the season, their only loss of the season, and their last loss of the season. So, of course, Mighty, how do you feel about being a champion?
It feels great, Jack. Big up to Tallahassee because as I told Ray Bentley when he's putting together that article, man, talking about 2 weeks of prep where I got no sleep, like prepping for that D line and then having to prep for those two receivers and Christensen was like work, like physical labor. When it was time to turn in that playbook Friday night, because I turned mine in Friday night because it was like, you know what, I can't go one more night without rest. So I turned in a day early Friday night. Oh man, it was like angels were singing. There was chorus of a hallelujah in the background because it felt like, okay, job well done. There's no more work that I could add or change to it, and I'm gonna have to live with the results. And hopefully, my team could execute the game plan that was put together. And I'm happy to say that they did exactly that. And like I said, it feels good to be a champion, man. It feels good.
I can certainly imagine. Now, of course, let's go into how this whole shebang went down quarter by quarter. So, Ramos, this is your first time being on the outside looking in for championships in season 8. How did you feel about that first quarter of action?
First of all, I want to congratulate Mighty and the rest of the Storm. The championship, the crown stays here in the podcast, so that's amazing to see. Finally Mighty getting the championship. Beginning, it was rough for the Storm. I thought that Tallahassee was playing really good defensively, especially, and they were really going to control the game, especially with their front four. We saw about 3 straight sacks from the Tallahassee Pride defensive line at the beginning of the game, and actually that first quarter ended with Tallahassee up 6-3, and I really thought that was going to be basically how the game was going to be. 2 very good defensive lines. Their secondaries have been playing good. So throughout the first quarter, that is. So I really thought that was going to be what it was going to transpire for the rest of the game. We saw the game where Alaska was in a field goal contest in the front page of Twitch earlier this season. So I thought we were going to have something similar, but, and we will talk about that a little bit later. They just executed. But the first quarter, I thought Tallahassee was looking pretty impressive defensively, especially, and I thought Ron Cochran was going to be under pressure the whole game and going to be sacked like 10, 12 times on the contest. Did not happen.
Alrighty, and now, of course, Mighty, how did it feel going into that second quarter? After that first quarter, it was a bit of a rocky start. How did it feel going into the second quarter and then, of course, going into halftime?
Well, like a lot of to championships and especially football championships, it feels like that initial period, that first period, is a lot of a feeling out process about, okay, what did they change from what we were expecting? Are they sticking to their principles or to their what they're used to doing well? To the and that's what it felt like in the first quarter. And the funny thing, we start off the game with back-to-back sacks, and I'm watching the game with my quarterback. Because I had a watch party, and he was like, "Man, don't despair." I'm like, "What you mean don't despair? We just got sacked twice. It's 3rd and million." He's like, "Dude, I'm used to throwing picks on my first drive. Well, at least we got the punt. It's a positive." So going into that second quarter, I felt that once we kind of calmed down offensively, because defensively, yeah, there were big plays being had by Tallahassee, but we were corralling enough to make them have to execute in the red zone, and we were able to keep them at bay and force them into kicks. In that second quarter, we actually started turning the screws up a little bit. We were able to really get into their running lanes and have to force third and longs where our pressure from our D-line was able to throw off the rhythm and timing between Christensen, Duke, and Kenny G, which was able to allow us to get the ball in more optimal position. But even then, we didn't really start doing anything worthwhile till midway through the quarter when we hit Optimus down the left sideline for that big play that kind of put us in the lead for the first time in the game.
Alrighty, so that was a great sort of conclusion to that first half. So now we're coming out of halftime.
Hold up, Jack. I don't mean to cut you off. But then the play of the game occurred after the 2-minute warning where Tallahassee was coming down and looked they're like they were going to answer. And my man, my brand new spanking GM, Ryan Davidson, knocks that ball into the air. And it looks like a big loaf of bread hanging out in there because it was floating there forever. And then Tony Willis gets that interception and runs down the left sideline with the slowest, longest, I think he's still running towards the end zone, pick six in SFL history. That thing took 10 minutes with key blocks from everybody. I think I threw a key block. I had time to throw a key block because it took him forever to get to the end zone. And that's kind of what gave us some breathing room because we know Tallahassee and their explosive offense could strike at any time.
Okay. And, of course, remember, everybody, that Ryan also won SFL Madness. So, coincidence? I think not. So, anyways, after that craziness, we're coming out of halftime. You know, Alaska and Tallahassee are still kind of neck and neck. Ramos, how did it feel coming out of that and going into the third quarter and just watching that whole thing unfold?
Alaska just dominated. You know, obviously, Mighty has spoken about what's an explosive quarter in his book. An explosive quarter is when you score more than 10 points in one period. Going back to the second quarter, they won that partially 14-0. So that's one explosive quarter. And they came back in the third quarter and did the exact same thing. Now 17-3 on that third period. So, you know, again, you know, Alaska just really, really coming into halftime. That pick six really light up the spark for them to come back from the locker room. And they just dominated. The defensive line started to really clog the holes. Christensen didn't look comfortable at all in the third quarter. The defensive corners were playing man-to-man sometimes, or, you know, the safeties were kind of rotating again towards the receivers, and they were just not letting anything go against them for Alaska's defense. And, you know, Stanley Nardellis started to make some plays. We saw just St. Clifton. We saw everybody just Alaska just clicking on all cylinders and just playing an incredible third quarter, which, again, I repeat, 17-3. And that really put Alaska in, okay, you know what? You know, Alaska's really, really dominating. At that point, the game was already 30. Sorry, and it was 14-3. It was not 17-3. It was 14-3. I apologize. The game was already 31-9 at that point. So, you know, Alaska was really, really running away with it.
Okay, and finally, we ended off in the fourth quarter with Mighty. How did it feel going through that entire fourth quarter, knowing that you more or less had it in the bag? You know, and how was that moment when you realized that you were SFL champions?
Okay, so I'm gonna let y'all peek behind the curtain. At no point in that fourth quarter did I feel comfortable. Ron kept telling me, "Man, we got a nice lead. This game's in the bag. We're champions." I'm like, "Hold up. I ain't comfortable with any lead against Tallahassee because our game plan defensively was to be ridiculously aggressive. We were blitzing. We were throwing the kitchen sink at Christensen and hoping that he wouldn't have the time to, you know, be able to execute deep plays down the field. But at any point, if his protection held up, it'd be one-on-one with Kenny G and Evan Carroll, and one-on-one between Duke 360 and Ryan Davidson. And listen, I love my boys, but they were playing some stalwarts, and, you know, that could take a top off a defense in a blink of an eye. So at no point did I feel comfortable until we were in victory formation. You know, that was when I was like, okay, finally, I could breathe. because in the fourth quarter they dropped 14 easy, and it was like, okay, okay, well we need the extra points because they get this onside, and where the game could change on a dime. So once the game was over, is when I was able to, yes, high fives were exchanged in the living room. We were champion of season 10, and it was at that point that's when the elation set in, and all the the well wishes and the congratulatory remarks was like, oh, job well done, monkeys off the back, finally. All this talk of the defensive genius this, and wow, man, my Mighty knows what he's doing, and it's like finally got the title to prove that he kind of knows what he's doing in Alaska a little bit. So that's what the mindset was in that fourth quarter, and and thereafter.
Even after all that craziness. Now, of course, as we all know, that was a very big night. It was once again on the front page of Twitch. And as per usual, after these big front page Twitch nights, Cam likes to release the new ratings. Cam, how big were the ratings this time around?
Oh, man. No schedule conflict for me whatsoever. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Man, incredible. We obviously had some hiccups that we don't normally have, which was unfortunate, but every game is different, including our issues. But yeah, man, after adjustments made by Twitch when they first came in, it was 79,000. I checked back today in terms of total views from the championship game, and we just eclipsed 100,000 now. To put it in perspective, we had about 120,000 after adjustments that viewed our front page game on Twitch TV when we had a double header on for Wildcard Wednesday. So the fact that almost what we have, or fact that we had what we had in half the time. So we were so thankful that those issues did not necessarily hurt the viewership. The viewership was outstanding all night. We shattered the peak viewership record, which originally was at about 2,300, which ended up being about our average on championship night. 3,190 was the official peak number. So we're hoping to expand on that, and then again the average 2,332. Wildcard Wednesday's average was just a little over 1,500. So that's a hand over fist improvement of about I don't know, math's not the strong suit, but about 30% or so there on the average viewers. And the average viewers is what's most important when talking about viewership. I was watching an Overwatch League competition earlier today, not because I'm interested in Overwatch League, but because I was stunned that 79,000 people were watching, because I was just wondering when the next football game was going to start, and I just couldn't figure it out. But people couldn't figure out why we had 3,000 people watching our game either. So to each their own. We got plenty to improve on heading into season 11. So it was an awesome night. Season 11 is going to be bigger and better. We've got some things up our sleeve, and just can't wait for that convention.
And neither can I and the rest of the podcast crew here. And of course, on Monday begins the first real phase of the offseason. Can you please tell us about that?
And forgive me, what was you're talking about the re-signing period?
Yes, of course.
This is postseason commissioner mind goop, I guess. The re-signing period starts on Monday. It's going to be exciting, man. We get a lot of transactions going. We get bogged down. We get behind. We have to, in some sort of a panic, tell people, hey, just wait and be patient with us. But it's a lot of fun. We'll have graphics for every player that signs. I'm sure the analysis in SFL chat will start. And it's going to be interesting to see which team can kind of get out of the gate, what they decide to do, and what players might be on the outside looking in, maybe looking for bigger contracts somewhere else when it's all said and done. There appears to be a ton of player movement already, a lot of front office promotions, relocations, all that stuff. So it's going to be wild. Re-signing period starts Monday and goes through May 5th. So basically 6 days worth, 7 days worth, 5 days worth of transactions. So it's going to be hot and heavy, and it'll be season 11 before you know it.
It's certainly. I remember last offseason that went by in a flash. And of course, also if you decide not to, and you know, Cam, if these people decide to not re-sign with their teams, what is the info that you got for us on free agency?
It's interesting. Free agency starts on May 9th. Now, we also have a planned expansion draft on May 7th. The amount of people that have declared for that expansion draft is pretty low. What could possibly happen is that May 7th and May 8th could be an expansion team signing period. We could see 3 players on each team get an opportunity to sign at a +3, +2, or +1 bonus. We haven't made any final determinations. The deadline is the 2nd. We will be reaching out to veterans and DMs throughout the weekend just to let them know their options, to let them know that there are opportunities for them all across the league, and for them to consider any and all possibilities. But I'm telling you, just going through free agency and seeing who already has declared, has informed their team they're not going to be back there, who has had their team inform them that they're not in future plans, is pretty fascinating stuff, particularly the quarterback movement that we're going to see. So that's going to be fun to track. Queen City needs a new QB. Vancouver needs a new QB. San Francisco needs a new QB. Atlanta, I believe, may need a new QB. Of course, all the expansion teams are looking to get QB. So these are prime spots in what will be the SFL's biggest season of exposure yet, coming in season 11. So it's going to be interesting there. So we've got expansion teams getting a little start just to try to keep up with the re-signing period going on the week before, and then you've got your free agency madness, and that's when teams really start to take shape and to take form there in that second week of May. So the calendar will move fast and furious, and we'll see where everybody stands and where everybody falls.
Yep. And of course, we got one last thing before we go into that whole craziness. We have SFL Honors tomorrow night, folks. That's right. Be there or be square. It was relocated from Friday night just due to, just things. So, Cam, what are we to expect from this new SFL Honors?
Yeah, I mean, we want to honor people. We want to honor our season. We want to take one last look back, one last little peek back in the history books before teams try to forget that Alaska won the championship season 10. Sorry, Mighty. But yeah, I mean, we'll have all of the awards people voted on. We had nearly 100 asked for SFL honors, considering that the ballot was only up a couple days. That was really good. That was really cool to see our community, behind those picks. We'll show some highlights. We'll show some blasts from the past stuff. We'll try to make it as good a show as we can, and give it one last bang before our next big shows, which will be the Pro Bowl draft and the Pro Bowl. So we'll be unveiling Pro Bowlers, we'll be unveiling Hall of Famers, we'll be unveiling award winners. It'll be a busy night.
It'll certainly be. And of course, I'm going to fling the mic back out to my 2 analysts over here. So, Ramos, who are you feeling could get some pretty big nods at the SFL Honors tomorrow night?
Looking at the screen right now, Offensive Player of the Year finalists, Ray Bentley, Christensen, and Ken Gossett. I think Christensen, for me, is a lock for MVP, even though, what happened in the championship game, I don't think that diminishes what he accomplished all year. So, as much as I want to be partial to my guy, Ray Bentley, I have to give it to Kenny G, because he was the man right there in Tallahassee. Defensive Player of the Year finalists, Mahmoud, Alex Dominguez, and Hunter Norwood. For me, this is a no-brainer. I love Mahmoud. I love Hunter Norwood, but this is a no-brainer for me. I will give it to Big Sexy, who, for me, was a candidate for MVP at the beginning of the year before the season even started. That's for Offensive and Defensive Player of the Year. So I already mentioned the MVP. We'll be looking at, Owner of the Year. Coach of the year, I think for owner of the year, my favorite will be Frank Gooden of the Tallahassee Pride. Regardless of what happened in the championship game, what he did all season long was tremendous. For coach of the year, we have it right here on the podcast. I will give it to Mighty RX. And we will see. I'm guessing we will see a lot of Tallahassee and Alaska tomorrow. By the way, going to the other thing. Sorry that I'm changing the subject. If you sign with a team, if you re-sign with a team, whatever, please do not post it on the SFL chat or anything until it gets posted on the signings, because if you do, it might be void. We don't want that. That sucks. That's horrible. So please don't. When it gets posted in the signings channel, now you please put in everything you want in the SFL chat, trash talk, whatever you want, because that's something important that you all should know. So, but yeah, going back to your question, I think we will see a lot of Tallahassee and Alaska tomorrow night.
Absolutely. And once again, just to echo what Ramos just said, once again, just don't post it into the chat just yet. Wait until after you've been confirmed by the league in the SFL alerts tab. And I'm not going to say anything about myself, so follow my example. Mighty, obviously you have one of your dogs in the ring for Defensive Player of the Year. How do you feel about that in particular category and just overall?
Well, I'm looking at that Offensive Player of the Year finalist, and I'm like, wow, there's a name that's been omitted. His running mate is there, but to me, Duke, he's in the running for other awards, but what Duke did, averaging darn near like half a football field per catch. At least it felt that way. Like every time he caught the ball, Duke was going a long ways. Between icing games with big time catches, I'm surprised Duke wasn't up there for Offensive Player of the Year, at least not in the finalists. As for Defensive Player of the Year, Big Sexy does what Big Sexy does. That's why he's the all-time sack leader in the history of the SFL, because Big Sexy does what Big Sexy does. So whether or not the populace have voted him as Defensive Player of the Year will remain to be seen. We'll find out tomorrow night. Tune in, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. But besides that, MVP. Yeah, I'm with Ramos that we're of one mind. What Christian Christensen did this season was just like it was Rocco Marconi-esque, like the way he was just chucking the ball over the field. I believe Ramos' team is the only team that held him under 300 yards this entire season. They did it once in that first matchup that they played him in. So big ups. Like it's gonna be, like y'all said, it's gonna be a lot of Tallahassee. Not as much as Alaska as I'd like, but it's going to be a lot of Alaska as well. And we're going to have a party tomorrow night, just reminiscing about a great season 10 with some nice big plays and awarding some people. I can't wait to see who made that, that inaugural class of the SFL Hall of Fame. That's going to be nice to be able to recognize kind of like our forebears and the guys that kind of set the standard, at least set the foundation for us to be where we are right now. So that's always good to look back and give credit where credit is due.
Absolutely. And of course, you know what? Okay, I'm going to swing the mic back over to you one more time. Are there any particular favorites of yours from this list, or are you just going to not say that?
I mean, obviously, I'm more partial to the moments of the year, to the plays of the year, to the games of the year, that sort of thing. And I just looking back on the year, we saw some, like, the thing that stands out to me about season 10 were the catches. We saw catches that we've never seen before. We saw Duke Wilson in the preseason catch, make a diving catch, get flipped in the air, still hung onto the ball. Catch. We saw a Hail Mary in the back of the end zone and triple coverage. We saw a butt catch in week 12. We've never seen any of those before. And those were the memories that I can't wait to reminisce about at SFL Honors. Also, too, brand new, teasing tonight, we are going to have a Pro Bowl uniform contest. We'll be releasing those details in the next couple of days, and the whole community will vote on that uniform contest, and we'll post photos in the voting and all that stuff. So we want to make sure that we involve the community on that as well. So if you're itching to design something and you got the game, and you want to design some Pro Bowl looks, we'd love to see what you got cooking there in your creative mind too. So happy to be reminiscing tomorrow. Congrats to Mighty on his first championship, and now it's the off season. Now things are going to get really interesting, and we're going to keep on plugging away, planning that convention. We've got last I counted, nearly 50 bodies accounted for the convention. That number obviously could continue to rise as we get closer and as we get new guys in the league, people in the area wanting to check it out. So lots to plan for, lots to get excited about. If you're having any bit trouble, make sure to let us know. But the people are rolling in those bits. We're counting things up, and once all the spots are taken up for season 11, they're all taken up for season 11, and we'll see how big this league ends up in season 12.
Yeah, as long as my uniforms look better than Destro's, I'm okay.
Oh God, Ramos. Okay, I'll make sure that when I try to throw my hat in this ring, I make yours look extra pretty. And of course, with that, everybody, that has been the SFL podcast for this week. I, of course, am your host, Jack Brown, alongside with Ramos Lynn and Mighty RX. And of course, with Cameron Irvine, we say so long and have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you.